the government. Its job, originally, at least in America, was to stay out of the way, not to stifle innovation and growth, but also not to let crime run rampant like the Wild Wild West. Now, we know the government has overreached in our lives in a lot of areas. That's no secret. But in this video, we're going to specifically be talking about the real estate market and how government policies are affecting it. Now, with housing being an obvious, very important part of our lives and our economy, it's really important to understand how it works. Because truthfully, this is what everyone needs to understand. This is what we should have been taught in school, but instead, we were taught about Pythagorean theorem and what happened in the War of 1812. Important things, no doubt, but you can't pay your bills with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. At least for like 99.9% of the population. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what your grade 9 teacher should have taught you, and to get you to understand how government policies indirectly or directly affect the real estate market and our entire lives. Now, before we get into all the good stuff, what is the Fed's job? We got to understand this before we get into anything. What is the Federal Reserve's job? Their entire job is to, mainly, to sum it up, control inflation, like Goldilocks zone. Not too much inflation, but also not too little. See, we need some inflation. Why? This drives innovation. It moves you up the property ladder, the corporate ladder. It keeps you on the hamster wheel wanting more. If everybody just stayed at the exact same salary, $40,000 a year, and just stayed there, and everything cost the exact same, milk, eggs, whatever, cost the exact same, it would be nice. It sounds like a utopia, but it's also very bad because it creates a lazy society. It doesn't spark innovation, new ideas. Why would anybody do anything? Why would anybody reach for more, invent something if they're not going to be rewarded? This is what propels society. This is what propels the human species. We are designed to want more. The grass is always greener on the other side. Let me at least figure out what the grass looks like on the other side. This is innate in our DNA. We are capitalistic in nature. We always are striving for more. We want to grow. We want to do more. We want to achieve more. We want to impact more. That sounds like capitalism. That's in our DNA. And the government's role in the West understands this. And this is why we need to control the economy and create some inflation to keep things moving forward. 2 to 3% a year is that target range, right? 2% is what they're looking for now, to be exactly. But that 2 to 3% range, that's a good, healthy economy. Things are moving. Things are getting more expensive. People are making more money. They're reaching for more. That's the job of the Fed in a nutshell, to keep a nice Goldilocks balance. And when things get too overheated, we got to slow it down, which means we got to raise interest rates, pull back the economy. If we get too low, inflation's too low, we got to lower interest rates to incentivize more borrowing, more business, more reaching to stimulate the economy forward. It's this nice balancing act the Fed is supposed to play. And this is called monetary policy. It's different from the government, from Joe Biden or Donald Trump, whoever's the president. They control what's called fiscal policy. So they have budgets and plans, and Biden wants to get rid of the student debt, like all that stuff. That's fiscal policy. Nothing to do with the Fed. The Fed is monetary policy, which means interest rates. Now, with that being said, let's get into the good stuff. First things first, interest rates. The Fed's main and only tool. We're lowering or raising. So what are we seeing right now? We're seeing inflation has been running hot the past couple of years. So what is the Fed doing? That's right. They're raising interest rates to cool the economy. Things are getting too hot. It's been too insane. People were spending money like crazy. They were buying houses they shouldn't have bought, buying Rolexes, buying Lambos. It's getting too hot. It's getting too overheated. We're getting to a dangerous point. Inflation is running out of control. We got to raise interest rates to cool the economy, which is what we're happening for the past 2 years. But that's soon coming to an end. The Bank of Canada, at the time of filming this video, just recently cut interest rates, and the European Central Bank, the morning of me filming this, I don't know when this will come out, but when I'm filming this, they just cut rates as well. No surprise. So clearly the G7 countries are on the path of cutting and easing monetary policy. We'll see how that's going to play out over the next 2 years. But currently, the bank has been raising interest rates. So what's happening to the real estate market? Obviously, this affects borrowing mortgage rates directly. When you raise interest rates, especially as fast and as hard as we have, naturally, it's going to pull back interest in the housing market. People aren't going to buy as many homes as they should, not going to buy as big of a house as they should or could. They're going to keep it simple. They're going to keep it low, less spending in the economy, less frenzy. It's going to naturally pull back prices. So that's the tool right now that the Fed is using to raise interest rates to cool the economy. Now, on the fiscal side of government policy, we have tax deductions and tax incentives, things to incentivize people to buy, to spend. So the Fed and the government can work in lockstep or against each other, but typically they'll work together. So when the market is too insane, they're going to put more harsher rules on tax incentives or tax deductions. They're going to make it harder. When the market is really bad, inflation is too low, we have a lot of job losses, a lot of people not working, unemployment's high. The government is going to create tax incentives. They're going to lower taxes. They're going to make it easier to buy real estate, for example. So, for example, a quick example for real estate specifically is the 1031 exchange. This is a really good fiscal policy. This allows you to sell a property, and instead of paying taxes on it, if you buy another property within a certain amount of time, usually 12 months at any given time, you don't have to pay taxes on that gain as long as you buy another property. So what does this incentivize? This is capitalism 101. This is why America is so amazing. They realize that you're going to move up the property ladder, right? Which is great for the government. They're going to make more money. The municipal city is going to make more property taxes. Everyone's making more money. But what it's also going to create is more housing. And the government likes that. They're going to reward you for creating more housing because theoretically, you're going to move up. You're going to buy a duplex. You're going to, hold it for 5 years, sell it, make $200,000 profit. Instead of paying taxes on it, the government basically is saying, if you buy a sixplex, a bigger property, roll that money into a bigger property, we won't charge you taxes on that money as long as you're upgrading and buying more real estate, providing more housing for our citizens. It's great. It's a win-win. Other countries like Canada, where I'm from, we don't have a 1031 exchange. Okay, if you buy that duplex and you make the same $200,000, the government's coming after the $200,000 for taxing it. You're going to be left with $140,000, and then they're going to say, okay, now go buy another one, please, so I can hit you again. It's not incentivizing a lot of savvy professional investors to continue investing in Canada, when in America we have these great policies and we can just invest there, which is what we're seeing now. So many Canadian investors and investors around the world are leaving their crappy countries and they're investing in the US, myself included. I bought over 150 properties in Canada. I made a ton of money, changed my life. Fantastic. But now with what I know, being a savvy real estate investor and business owner, why would I continue investing in Canada? It makes no sense. I'm going to triple down, go to America, and provide housing for Americans. Canada is losing an investor like myself and many others because of bad fiscal policies. This directly affects and indirectly affects the housing markets in many ways. While the government in Canada is trying to collect more tax revenue because we have more of a socialistic society compared to America, let's be real, we have free healthcare, free a lot of stuff, more safety nets for people if they're homeless, if they go bankrupt. We have more safety nets in Canada because of this tax revenue. That's great. The government is trying to get more tax revenue to split it up among the society. That's fantastic. The unintended consequence, less investors want to buy real estate. Less investors want to do business in Canada for tech companies or any company. Doctors don't want to be doctors in Canada. This is a real thing. We're seeing this. Doctors are leaving to go to America because they're being taxed capital gains really high on their profession. They went to school for a lot of years, got into a massive amount of debt. They're providing a really good service for society, and they're being penalized for it through higher taxes. As opposed, why would I work in Toronto as a doctor when I can work in Austin, Texas, or California? The weather's better, and I get to keep more of my money. So I'm going to go there. Unintended consequence. While you're trying to do good for your citizens, you're also at the same time doing bad because you're disincentivizing capitalism. So it goes both ways. You can't be all socialistic. You can't be all take from the rich and give it to the poor. You're going to have unintended consequences. Now, on the municipal policy side, we have land use and zoning and permits, a really, really interesting topic that directly affects the housing community you're in. If your municipal or county, won't allow you to subdivide land or to change the zoning of land from agriculture to residential very easily, to incentivize builders to come in, change the land over to residential, build more houses, more suburbs. If that's a very hard process to do, you're going to have less housing in your community. Example, California. Very hard to change zoning, very hard to get permits. They're very costly. They take a long time. So it's disincentivizing investors going to California, going to LA, going to these more poorer areas to change it over, to revitalize the area. It's too hard. It's too expensive. Housing is expensive. Permits are expensive. It takes forever. Financing in those areas are very expensive. It's disincentivizing change. This is why we have hoods. This is why we have bad areas. It's hard to change them over. It's no, look. Okay, I'm not being like Republican or Democrat. I'm just talking straight facts. By the way, I'm an independent, okay? Before you like try to put me in a box. I'm largely independent. Economically, I'm conservative. Social policy wise, I tend to be very liberal. So pretty much I'm an independent. I'm right down the middle, but I lean a little more conservative. Let's be real. Okay, anyway. I'm just focusing on the policies themselves. And let's be real. The more blue cities, the more democratic cities, which tend to be the bigger cities, so they come with their own problems by themselves, left or right, doesn't matter. But the more blue cities, San Francisco, LA, New York, Boston, Chicago, right? These are major cities in America. They're the dumpiest. They have the most crime. They have the most poverty. They have the most homeless. It's no secret. Like that's straight up. Go to a big city in Texas. Not as much of that. Go to Miami. Not as much of that. Of course, there is crime and whatever else, but like not nearly as much as, all of that. Detroit, Michigan's kind of a swing state, but it's more of a blue city. Detroit is very blue city. All these blue cities have terrible policies. They're expensive. They're slow. They're costly. That has effect on real estate. Investors don't want to go there. Why would I go there? It takes forever to do anything. Well, when I can just go to Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, these are more red states with red cities in them. It's easier to get things done. Those states believe in capitalism. Do what you want. You own the property, do what you want. You want to change this over from an agricultural land to, residential? Okay. It's a more simpler process, definitely than those blue cities or blue counties. It's easier. It costs less. So investors like to spring up housing and invest there. We're providing good housing down there. So those are the indirect and unintended consequences of municipal policies. Next point, very important, rent controls. Man, going back to the blue cities, New York State, California, dude, don't go there. Don't be investing in long-term real estate there. Tenants have all the laws on their side. Squatters can squat, like New York, somebody can just squat in your house literally and be like, no, I live here. And it's going to be forever to get them out. Like, there's so many cases that have just sprung up. One lady in New York, she has the deed. She did what she shouldn't have, I guess, in New York, and tried to kick her out. When the tenant left, locked the doors. Tenant called the police. Police sided with the tenant. She's like, this person doesn't even have a lease. I don't even know who they are. I have the deed right here. I own the house. And who did the cop arrest? The homeowner. Don't invest in those states. So those policies directly affect the housing market. Investors don't want to invest there. What happens to rental prices? They go up. Why? There's less of them. When you have less demand or less supply and high demand, prices go up. So in these blue cities that are very liberal, they're trying to make it better for people by putting in these regulations and these rules. And you can't kick a tenant out for no reason. You can't raise the rent. And if you do, only by this much every single year. All these rules, regulations. What happens? Investors don't want to go there. Lower supply. Demand is still there. People are still having babies. People are still moving to New York. Population is still growing, but less landlords. Prices go up. There's no secret that rents are more expensive in blue cities and blue states. It's straight up. This is why housing and rental are so cheap in Florida, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. Housing is so cheap, like insanely cheap. You can get like a mansion in Texas for 500, 600 grand, and in California, you get a shoebox. Policies. Yes, there's other factors. California is a bigger economy. There's more going on. That's why it's more expensive, for sure. But these policies don't friggin' help. They also make housing more expensive. Number 6, foreign investment regulation. This will be more on the government fiscal policy side, that how easy it is for foreign nationals to buy real estate in your country. In America, It's pretty liberal, pretty easy. As a Canadian, I can attest buying real estate as a Canadian is super easy. Maybe not for other countries, but being a Canadian, a neighbor, we're trade partners, it's very easy for us to buy real estate in America. That's great. That's easy. It's nice. Other countries to buy in Canada, also fairly easy, I would say. But there's other countries where it's not so easy. Their governments say, no, I don't want anybody else. I can't think of one, but probably European countries, it's probably very hard for anybody to buy in their country. They're going to put rules up. So that's going to affect the housing market in those areas. And consequently, in Canada, the market is on fire. Toronto and Vancouver, if you've never heard of that, it's our two biggest cities in Canada. I'm sure you have. Those markets are on fire because a lot of Asian and Indian millionaires, billionaires, can buy real estate in Toronto as a store of value very easily. That's going to put prices up in Toronto. It's also, they're leaving them empty because they don't want to have tenants. Because who wants tenants in Toronto? It's basically New York City. The rules are all for the tenant. So these millionaires are buying all these properties and then leaving them empty. So not only are they jacking up real estate by creating FOMO and just buying up supply, that supply is never coming online. It's not going to be available for a rental. So that's going to put upward pressure on rent prices. There's less housing to be had. Prices must go up. And last but not least, and we can just keep going on forever, but number 7, political stability. How stable is your country? America is the bedrock of stability. It is the leader of the world. Economy is great. All the big stuff's in America. Amazon, Google, Facebook, Tesla. Everything is from America. Hollywood, New York City, the Big Apple, everything is in America. It is the leader. That's stability. That's good for the market. It's also bad because a lot of people want to buy there. A lot of people want to live to America. The immigration is insane. Lots of people want to come to America legally or illegally. It is the bedrock of stability. That's good for the housing market. It's good for the economy. But it also means prices will go up in major cities, so that's bad for local residents. So you see what I'm saying? When you think about these type of things, you're going to think more like a sophisticated investor. You're going to think smarter. You're going to think deeper about decisions. Where do I want to invest next? What are the policies at the federal level, at the monetary policy level, at the municipal level, at the county level? You start thinking like this, you're going to become way better as a real estate investor rather than just winging your way through it. Anyway, that's the video. If you liked it, smash the like button. I'll see you in the next video.